Our program will be multilingual. I will be speaking in English. Others will speak in English, Tigrinya, or whichever language is most comfortable for them. We'll be providing links to find current information on the situation in Axum and Tigray during our program. To begin, I want to light my own memorial candle that will burn in my home for the next 24 hours. Once more, I'm going to try to get this to stay lit. Thanks for your patience. There. I pray that this light will be a light of comfort for those who have lost family and friends. I pray that this will also be a light of peace and hope for a better future. Next, we will hear from our local religious leaders. Sagrada.
We will be hearing from Lika Gubae, Kinafargab Lika Gubae. Allahumma.
الله خبت إشي يسمع الله ده
Oh, video tatulu.
Okay. Yeah, thank you everybody. Good afternoon. I just want to say something in Tigrinya. My name is Kanaparg Hagos Tasfai, and from the Tigray Hamarono Kidana Mera Church.
He knows this.
Okay, سمع الله ده؟
يسمع video يرى.
Oh, واللي عيال له فيديو يرأيك نزل له أو زخانة زجاج من مالتي.
We see you now. We see you now.
Okay. شيء. بسمع وولد ومنفس قدوس أحدو أملاك بقدس الله سينزام وتمها سنكرك سيطان بقد مزاتي إمي قدس بيت كريستيان تأتي سمي باريام سيون العالم عالم آمين እግዚአብሔር አምላክና አማኸልና ተረኺብካ ንኽትባርኸና ንኽትቅድሰና ፈቃድካ ይኹን ለና ዝኸበርኩምን ዝኸበርክንን ኩልኹም ኣብዚ ዘለኹም ቅድሚ ኩሉ ልዕሊ ኩሉ ብጎይታ ብቅዱስ እግዚአብሔር ስም ናይ እግዚአብሔር ሰላምታ ይብፃሕኹም እናበልኩ ነዚ በዓል እዚኡ ዘዘጋጀኹምና ኩልኹም ብፍላይ ኣክሱም ሲስተርስ ኹም መሰለ ምድላው ስለ ዘዳለኹም ዝለዓለ ምስጋና ከቅርበልኩም ይደሊ ብህዝብና ብህዝብ ትግራይ ስም ደሞ ብጣዕሚ ምስጋና ይብፃሕኹም ሰናይ ገለ ተጋደልኩ ሰናይ ገሊ ተጋዲለ ነትጉያ ድማ ፈጺመ ይብል ሐዋርያ ቅዱስ ጳውሎስ ሎማዓንቲ ኣብዚዩ ዝተኣከብናሉ ዋና ምክንያት ኣብዚ ሕዚ ሰዓት ኣብ ህዝብና ኣብ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ኣብ ልዕሊ ሃይማኖትና ኣብ ልዕሊ ቅርስና ኣብ ልዕሊ ቤተ ክርስቲያንና ኣብ ልዕሊ ህዝብና ኣብ ልዕሊ መራሕትና ብኣጠቃላሊ ኣብ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ዝወርድ ዘሎ ጨፍጫፍን ወረራን ምክንያት ጌርና ብኡ ምክንያት ድማ መስዋዕትነት ንዝኸፈሉ ኩሎም ኣሕዋትና ኣብ ሙሉእ ትግራይ መስዋዕትነት ዝኸፈሉ ብፍላይ ድማ ኣብ ቤተ መቅደስ ከም ናይ ዘካርያስ ደሞም ዝፈሰሱ ካህናትናን ምእመናናን ንምዝካር እዩ ከምቲ ሐዋርያ ቅዱስ ጳውሎስ ዝበሎ ጽቡቕ ገድሊ ተጋዲለ እየሞ ንትጉያ ፈጺመ እየ ይብል ኣብ ካልኣይ ጢሞቴዎስ ምዕራፍ 4:7 ብዙይ መልክዕ ብዙሓት ቅድሚ ሕዚ ሓሊፎምና እዮም ብዙሓት ሰማዕታት ተሕሊፍና ኢና ናይ ሕዝኒ ሰማዕትነት ግን ዝተፈለየ እዩ ናይ ጦርነት ሰማዕትነት ኣሎ ናይ ጥሜት ሰማዕትነት ኣሎ ናይ ስደት መስዋዕትነት ኣሎ ናይ ጽምማይ መስዋዕትነት ኣሎ ዝኹሉ ተጻዊሩ ዝኸር ዘሎ ህዝቢ ኣብዚ ሰዓት እዚ ጎኒ ከዓይና ዝብሎ ሰብን ሕብረተሰብን ብምርካቡ በእውነት ዝለዓለ ጸጋ እዩ ስለዚ እዚ ምኽንያት ጌርኩም ምስቶም ናይ ወጻእተኛታት ብሕብረት ኮይንኩም ብስምረት ኮይንኩም ዝበዓል እዚኡ ብምኽባርኩም ነቶም ብመስዋዕትነት ዝሓለፉ ብምዝካርኩም ብህዝብና ህዝቢ ትግራይ ስም ዝለዓለ ክብሪ ምስጋናን ይብጻሕኩም እናበልኩም ናብቲ ዝተፈጸመ ነገር ሕፅር ኣቢለ ክገልጸልኩም ይደሊ ኣብ ዓለምና ዘይተዘረበ እምበር ዘይተገበረ ነገር የለን ብዙሓት ሰባት ኣብ ዓለም እናሃለቁ ብሃይማኖቶም ብመንነቶም እናጠፉ መፅኦም እዮም ኣብ ሙሉእ ዓለም ማለት እዩ ዝተፈላለየ ሕዚ እውን ከምኡ መሰለ ዝበፅሖም ሕብረተሰብ ክፍልታት ኣለዉ ሕዚ ግን ኣብ ዓድና ኣብ ትግራይ ኣጋጢሙ ዘሎ ፀገም ክሳብ ሕዚ ኣብ ዓለም ዘይተረአየ ዘይተሰምዐ እዩ በ4 መልክዕ እንትኸፍሎ እንተለኹ ኣብ ትግራይ ተፈፂሙ ዝኒሆ ወራር ቀዳማይ ደረጃ ሃይማኖታዊ ወራር እዩ ሃይማኖታዊ ጦርነት እዩ ንምንታይ ሃይማኖታዊ ወራር ንምንታይ ሃይማኖታዊ ጦርነት ክኾን ክኢሉ እንተልና እታ ሕዚ ኢትዮጵያ ኣብ ዓለም ሙሉእ ትፍለጥ ኢትዮጵያ ስማ ክለዓል ዝኸኣለ ወይም ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያ ተባሂላ ተፀነስትሉ ተወለድትሉ እውን ኣብዚ ህዝቢ እዚ ኣብ ትግራይ እዩ ኢትዮጵያ ትቅድማ ትግራይ እያ እምበር ትግራይ ንኢትዮጵያ ኣይትቀድመን እያ ኢትዮጵያ ዝብል ስም መጀመርያ ግዜ ዝተሰየመ ኣብ ትግራይ ኣብ መዝበረብ ዝተባሃለ ቦታ ብኢትዮጵስ ኢትዮጵያ ተባሂላ ማለት እዩ እዛ ዓዲ እዚኣ ኣዲኣ ውላድ ንጓላ ዝተወገአሉ ውላድ ነዲኣ ተሓርደሉ ተጥፍአሉ ዘመን ኢና በፅሒና ዝኔና ስለዚ ሃይማኖታዊ እዩ እንብሎ ምክንያት ተኣዩ ትግራይ ናይ ሙሉእ ኣፍሪካ ብፍላይ ናይ ኢትዮጵያ ናይ ስልጣነ መሰረት ስለዝኾነ ናይ ሃይማኖት መሰረት ስለዝኾነ ናይ ስርዓተ መንግስቲ መሰረት ስለዝኾነ ናይ ስነ ጽሑፍ መሰረት ስለዝኾነ ናይ ስርዓተ ዜማ መሰረት ስለዝኾነ እዚ ኩሉ ድማ ዝርከብ ኣብተን ኣብያተ ክርስቲያናት ስለዝኾነ እታን ኣብያተ ክርስቲያናትን እቲ ሃይማኖት ዝመርሑ ሰባትን ምጥፋእ እዩ ኣብ ኣክሱም ብቀዳማይ ዝተጨፍጨፉና ልዕሊ 700 ዝኾኑ ሰባት ተጨፍጨፉና ሃይማኖትና ኣይነድፍርን ቤተ ክርስቲያንና ኣይነድፍርን ቅርስና እውን ሕሊፍና ኣይንህብን ብዝብል ምክንያት እዮም ተሰዊኦም ስለዚ ንምንታይ እዩ ኣብ ሃይማኖታዊ ወረራ ዝኸውን ምክንያቱ እቲ ሃይማኖት ዝመርሑ ሰባትን እቲ ሃይማኖት ዝከላኸሉ ምእመናንን ምጥፋእ እንድሕር ክኢልና እታ ዓዲ ታሪኻ ናብ ዘይሮ ክንገብሮ ንኽእል ኢና ካብኡ እቲ ናታቶም ታሪክ ናይ ባዕልትና ታሪክ ክንገብር ኢና ብዝብል ምክንያት እዩ ስለዚ ንዙ እዮም ቅርስታትና ናይ ታሪክ ትግራይ ዝሓዙ መፅሓፍትና ኩሎም እናተወረሩ እናተዘረፉ ንሳቶም ዝከላኸሉ ዝነበሩ ምእመናን እዮም ተጨፍጭፎምና ዝነበሩ ብዙይ ምክንያት ኢና ድማ ሃይማኖታዊ ወረራ እዩ ሃይማኖታዊ ጨፍጫፍ እዩ ንብሎ ዘለና እዚ ምክንያቱ ሕዚ ተጀመረ ይኮነን ቅድም ኢሎም ብዝነበሩ ነገስታት ሸዋ ዝግበር ነበር መበል 15 ክፍለ ዘመን ብዙሓት መነኮሳት ተጋሩ በሃይማኖቶም ምክንያት ኣብ ትግራይ ሃይማኖት ንኸየስፋሕፍሑ ተጨፍጭፎም እዮም ብንጉሰ ሸዋ ዘርዓ ያዕቆብ ዝበሃል ማለት እዩ ብድሕሪኡ እውን ብንምኒሊክን ብና ሃይለ ስላሴን ብደርግን ህዝብና ቤተክርስትያንና እንታይ ዓይነት ግፍዕን መጉዳእትን ከም ዝበፅሖ ንፈልጥ ኢና ስለዚ ትቅድም ተጀሚሩ ዝነበረ ኣጀንዳ ዘይተወደ ኣጀንዳ እዮም ሕዚ ዝውድኡ ዘለዉ ኣጋጣሚ እቲ ሕዚ ኢትዮጵያ ዝመርሕ ዘሎ ግለሰብ እቲ ዘይተወደ ኣጀንዳ ንክውድአሎም መሳርያ ኮይና ይሰርሕ ዘሎ ማለት እዩ ለዚ ንዙ ኢና ሃይማኖታዊ ጦርነት እዩ ንብሎ ኩሎም ብዙሓት ካህናት ኣብ ቤተ መቅደስ ተቐቲሎም እዮም ኣብያተ ክርስቲያንና ኩለን ብመዳፍዕ ፈሪሰን እየን ብዙሕ ንዋያተ ቅድሳት ተሰሪቁ እዩ ተቃፂሉ እዩ ብዙሓት እውን ክግበር ዘይግባእ ነገር ተገይሩ እዩ ካልኣይ ፖለቲካዊ እዩ ፖለቲካዊ ዝኾነሉ ምክንያት ንናይ ኢትዮጵያ ስልጣነ ብኣጠቃላሊ ስርዓተ መንግስቲ ዝመስረተት ዓዲ እዚኣ ትግራይ እያ ስለዚ እዚኣ ጠንካራ ኮይና ብናይ ባዕልታ መራሕቲ ብናይ ባዕላ ኣካይዳ ክትምራሕን ክትነብርን ስለዘይድለ ኣባጊዕ ንክትብትነን እንድሕር ኮንካ ንክተጥፍእ እንድሕር ኮንካ መጀመርያ ሓላዊአን ኢኻ ትቐትል ተጥፍእ ስለዚ ንትግራይ ዝመርሕ ሓይልን ንትግራይ ህዝቢ ዘተሓባበር ሓይልን ናይ ትግራይ ልምዓት ዝመርሕ ሓይልን መራሕን ንኸይህልዎት ህዝቢ መራሕቱ ቀቲልካ እቲ ፖለቲካ ኣጥፊእኻ ብዘይ ሓላዊ ንምትራፍን ባድማ ንምግባርን እዩ እዚ ፖለቲካዊ ንብሎ ማለት እዩ ዝህዝቢ እዚ ግን ዝበሎ ነገር ምንም ነገር ኣይነበረን ኣነ ናይ ማንም መግዛእተ ይቅበልን እየ ናይ ማንም ባሪያ ይኮነን እየ ናይ ማተይ እውን ይደልን እየ ናተይ እውን ይብን እየ ብፍትሕን ብስርዓትን ክነብር ይደል እየ ባዕለይ ንባዕለይ መሰለይ ባዕለይ መራሕተይ መሪፀ ብመራሕተይ ክምራሕየ ስለ ዝበለ እዩ ኩለይ መከራ በፅሕዎ ዝኒ ከምዚያ ትብል ድምፂ ከኣን ክስማዕ ስለ ዘይድለ በቶም ፀላእትና በቶም ወረርቲ ቶም ቅድምት ማለት ዘባረርናዮም ንሳቶም እንደገና መፅዮም ከምኡ ዝብሉ ዘለዉ ማለት እዩ ስለዚ እዚ እንታይ ይገብሮ ፖለቲካዊ ዝኾነ ጦርነት ይበሃል ማለት እዩ ናይ ፖለቲካ መራሕትና ኣተሓሳስባና በአጠቃላይ ዘለና አይዲዮሎጂ በሙሉ ንምጥፋእን ንምድምሳስን እዩ እቲ ሳልሳይ ኢኮኖሚያዊ ጦርነት እዩ ኢኮኖሚያዊ ጦርነት ማለት እዩ ቀደም ሓደ አባሃላ ነይርዎም እዩ ቶም ፀላእትና ቶም ትምክሕተኛታት እንታይ ነይርዎም ትግራዋይ አጥሚኻ እዩ ዝግዛእ እምበር ኣብሊዕኻ ይኾን ዝበሃል መምርሕ ነይርዎም ክልተ ነገር እዮም ዝቕምጡ ሓደ ክመሃር የውልን ትግራዋይ ዝበሃል ማለት ሓደ ቀዳማይ ደረጃ ክመሃር የውልን ካልኣይ ደረጃ ብኢኮኖሚ ዝማዕበለ ብኢኮኖሚ ዝተመሓሸ ትግራዋይ ክነብር የውልን ለማንን ዝስደድን ናብ በየዓዱ ዝብተንን ህዝብ ኮነ ኣለዎ ከምኡ እንተኮይኑ ንሕና ኣንበርኪኽና ክንገዝኦ ንኽእል ብዝብል ቅድሚ ሕዚ ዝነበረ ናይ ንምኒልክን ናይ ሃይለ ስላሴን ዝነበረ መመላኻኽታ ሕዚ በቶም ትምክሕተኛታት ተላዒሉ እዚኡ ዝግበር ዘሎ ማለት እዩ ዝንምውዳእ እዩ ስለዚ ኢኮኖሚኡ ማለት ተገይሩ ዝኒሆ ብሙሉእ ትግራይ ካብ ገዛ ካብ ታኒካ ጀሚሩ ክሳብ ደገ ዘሎ ፋብሪካ ብሙሉእ 100% ኣፍሪሶም ወዕንዮም ወሎ ማለት እዩ እንታይ ንምግባር ኢኮኖሚኡ ዝሓመቐ ዝወደቀ እንድሕር ኮይኑ ዝተበተነ ህዝቢ ዝተሰደደ ህዝቢ ባዶ ዝኾነ መሬት ይኸውን ማለት እዩ ንዚና ናይ ሃይማኖት ሕፅወን ናይ ፖለቲካ ሕፅወን ናይ ኢኮኖሚ ሕፅወን ይካየደሎ ንብሎ ዘርኢ ምጽናት ንብሎ እዚ እዩ ናይ መወዳእታ መበራብዓይ ብናት የመለኻኽታ ናይ ስነ ልቦና ጦርነት እዩ ስለዚ ናይ ስነ ልቦና ጦርነት ታይ ማለት እዩ ሁሉ ትግራዋይ ብፖለቲካ እውን ብሃይማኖት እውን ድሕር ተደፊሩ ብሃይማኖት እውን ድሕር ተቀቲሉ ብኢኮኖሚ እውን ድሕር ተቀቲሉ ብፖለቲካ እውን ድሕር ተቀቲሉ ትዝተረፈ ብደገ ዘሎ የትም ዓለም ዝነብር ትግራዋይ ርእሰ ድኒኑ ክኸድ እዩ ርእሰ ድኒኑ ትሕቲሉ ፈሪሑ ተሸማቂቁ ንኽነብር ብትግራዋይነቱ ንኸይኮርዕን ምግባር እዩ እንታይ ንምግባር እዩ ስነ ልቦኑ ሰሪካ ታሪኹን ሃፍትን ንምውሳድ እዩ ስለዚ ተጋሩ እንታይ ይብሉ ኣለዉ ሕዚ እዘን ኣርባዕተ እዚኣተን ብሙሉእ ነይንቅበልና ዝቅበለ ኣእምሮ እውን የብልና ኒና ከምቲ ሐዋርያ ቅዱስ ጳውሎስ ዝበሎ ክሳብ መወዳእታ ክንቃለስ ኢና እቲ ጉያና ድማ ክንውድእ ኢና ስለዚ ንሕና ድንን ኢልና ንኸይድ ንፈጣሪ ንእግዚአብሔር እምበር ንዓብለልትን ንገዛእትን ንወረርትን ንዘረፍትን ኣድኒና እውን ኣይንፈልጥን ታሪክና እውን ኣይኮነን ኣይንገብር ኢና ዝብል እዩ ማለት እዩ ስለዚ ብዙ ምክንያት እዮም እቶም ሰማዕታትና ሞይቶም እኒአው እቶም ጀጋኑና ሞይቶም እኒአው ናይ ሃይማኖት ቃልሲ ብምግባሮም ናይ ታሪክ ቃልሲ ብምግባሮም ናይ ማሕበራዊ ናብራ ናይ ኢኮኖሚ ቃልሲ ብምግባሮም ናይ ፖለቲካ ቃልሲ ብምግባሮም እዩ ጉድኣት በፅሕዎም ዝኒኦ ስለዚ እንታይ ክንገብር ኣለና ኩለና ኣብዚ ሕሳስ ሰዓት ኣብዛ ሰዓት እዚኣ ሞት ሓንቲ እያ ሕማቅ ሞት ከይንመውት ክንጥንቀቕ ኣለና ኣብ ዘይኮነ መስመር ተሰሊፍና ናይ ፀላእቲ መሳርያታት ኮይንና ሕማቅ ሞት ምክንያቱ ናይ ፀላእቲ መሳርያ ኮይኖም ንኸብዶምን ንስልጣኖም ክብሉ ላዕልን ታሕትን ዝብሉ ኣለዉ እዚኣቶም ድማ ሞቶ ይተርፉም ክሞቶም እዮም ናይ እዚኣቶም ሞት ክልተ ሞት እዩ ዝኸውን ኣብዚ ሰዓት እዚ ድማ ብቤተ ክርስቲያን ይኹን ብሃይማኖት ይኹን ብደገ ይኹን ብፖለቲካ ይኹን ምስ ህዝቢ ኮይኖም ሃገር ውሽጥን ኣብ ወፃእን ዝቃለስ ህዝቢ እኒኦም ሞት ሓንቲ እያ ሰማዕትነት ድማ እያ ክብሪ እያ ንሳ ኢና ስለዚ ኣብ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ጠጠው ኢልና ከም ሓደ ሰብ ከም ሓደ ህዝቢ ኮይንና ብዝረኸብናዮ ኩሉ ድምፅና ናስማዕና ተወዲብና እዚ ፀገም እዚዩ ክንሰግሮ ክንክእል ኣለና ክንሰግሮ ድማ ኢና ንምንታይ ብዙሓት ሰጊሮም እዮም ቅድሚ ሕዚ ሰጊርና ኢና ናይ ዮዲት ጉዲት ጦርነት ሰጊርና ኢና ናይ ግራኝ መሐመድ ጦርነት ሰጊርና ኢና ናይ ጣልያን ሰጊርና ኢና ናይ ደርግ ሰጊርና ኢና ናይ ዘርዓ ያዕቆብ እውን ሰጊርና ኢና ናይ ብዙሓት በለፀኛታት ፀገም ሰጊርና ኢና እዚኣ ድማ ፅባሕ ክትወግሕ እያ ስለዝኾነ እቶም ሰማዕታትና ህያዋን እዮም መንግስተ ሰማያት ከውርሶም እዩ መንግስተ ሰማያት ንኸውርሰልና ድማ ኣምላኽና ፈቃድ ይኹነልና ብደዎም እንተይሞቱ እናሃለዉ ፀዲቆም ዝኸዱ እዮም ፅቡቕ ስራሕ ፅቡቕ ተግባርን ፅቡቕ ታሪክን ዝገደፉልና ስለዝኾነ እቲ ዝገደፉልና ሓደራ ተቐቢልና ንቅድሚት ክንወስዶ ናይ ባዕልትናይና ግዴታ እዩ ዝኸውን ስለዝኾነ መዓንቲ ብዙ ምክንያት እነውዕሎ ዘለና ንቅድሚት ናብ ዓወት ንዝወስደና ካብ ፀላም ናብ ብርሃን ናብ ዘውፅአና መንገዲ እዩ እምበር እናሓዝነሉን እንሸማቐቀሉን ርእስና ነድንደሉን ስለዘይኮነ እዚ ፈሊጥና ብዝረኸብና የጋጣም ሁሉ ንኽንቃለስ እናፀዋዕኹ ንዝተዋሃበኒ ክፍለ ግዜ ብጣዕሚ ከምስግን ይደሊ እግዚአብሔር ይሃበለይ ዝሞቱ መንግስተ ሰማያት የውርሰና በዚ ዘዘጋጀኹም ደግሞ እግዚአብሔር ይሃበለይ ይቅንየለይ ብሩኽ ጉባኤ ክኹነልኩም ክብል ይደሊ ወዲየ
Thank you, Lika Gubae. Pastor Habta Michael, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. We'll give you the floor.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
بمجمرتا تسمعون اللهم حقي من البات شي بمجمرتا نيشتي ناي 3 دقائق تخون صحفتي كم ببالكم سلازي تابل بيزر لا حساب بصحف كيري كم ببا دسيبلن معناتيو بمجمرتا باتي اب لعل هፃውንትን አዋድድን አዴታትን አቦታትን በሓፈሻ ድማ ኣብ ልዕሊ ህዝብና ህዝቢ ትግራይ ዝፍጸም ዘሎ ኣዝዩ ከቢድ ዝኾነ ግፍዕታት ኣብ ምድሪ ዝፈስስ ዘሎ ኣብታ ምድሪ ዝፈስስ ዘሎ ደምን ዘሎኒ ናይ ልቢ ሓዘንን ጓህን ክገልጽ ይፈቱ እዚ እዋን እዚ ንህዝቢ ትግራይ ናይ ሓዘን ናይ ጓሂ ናይ መከራ ናይ ምብትታን ናይ ምብራስ ናይ ሞት ናይ ጸልማትን እዋን እዩ ይኹን እምበር ኣብ ከምዚ ዝኣመሰለ ኩነታት ሓደ ቃል ተስፋ ኣብ መጽሓፍ ቅዱስ ይዝክር ንሱ ድማ ኣብ ትንቢት ኢሳይያስ 38 ቁጽሪ 17 እዚ ዓቢ ምረት ንሰላመይ ኮነ ከምኡውን ኣብ ኦሪት ዘጸአት 15:26 ኣዝዩ መሪር ዝኾነ ማይ ካብ ምምራሩ ዝተልዓለ ድማ ማራ ዝተባሃለ ኣምላኽ ነቲ መሪር ማይ ናብ ጥዑም ማይ ከም ዝለወጦ ኣምላኽ ብዘሎ ምረትን ጓህን ሓዘንን ሞትን ምብራስን ኣኽቲሙ ኣብቂዑ ኣብ ምድርና ምስ ህዝብና ናይ ሰላም ንፋስ ዝነፍሰሉ ግዜ ርሑቕ ከም ዘይከውን እውን ኣብ ኣምላኽ ዘሎ ንእምንቶ ዓብዩ ብምቕጻል እቲ ንሑዝናት ዘጸናንዕ ንልቦም እተሰበሩ ዝዝንን ብመንፈስ ጓሂ ንዝተመልኡ ክዳን ምስጋና ዝህብ ኣምላኽ በቲ ዝተፈጠረ ኩነታት ህፃውንቶምን ደቆምን ወለዶምን ብሞት ንዝተፈለይዎም ኩሎም ከም ውልቂ ከም ቤተሰብ ከም ሃገር ኣምላኽ መንፈስ ምጽንዑ ይልኣኸልና ይብል ኣብ መወዳእታ መልእኽተይ ንኩሎም ኣብ መሪሕነት ሃገር ኮነ ኣብ መሪሕነት ሃይማኖት ንዘለዉ ኩሎም እዚ ናይ ምድርናን ህዝብናን ወሪዱ ዘሎ መቕዘፍቲ ናብ ዝገደደ ከይከይድ እሞ ካብ ታሪኽ ሩዋንዳውያን ብዝበኣሰ ልዕሊ 1 ሚልዮን ዝበረሰሉ ዓሌታዊ ግጭት ካብኡ ብዝገደደ ከይከይድ መራሕቲ ሃገር ህዝባውን ሃገራውን ሓላፍነቶም ክገብሩ ይጽውዕ ከምኡውን ኣብ ውሽጢ ሃገር ኮነ ኣብ ውሽጢ ሃገር ኮነ ኣብ ወጻኢ ዘለኹም መራሕቲ ቤተ እምነት ታሪኽ ቤተ ክርስቲያን እምነታት ሩዋንዳውያን ከይትደግሙ ህይወት ሰብ ኣዝዩ ክቡር ምዃኑ ኣስተውዒልኩም ንምሕረት ንይቕሬታ ንዕርቂ ሪኮንሲሌሽን ብሓባር ደው ክትብሉ ኣምላኻዊ ሓላፍነትኩም ምዃኑ ከዘክረኩም ይፈቱ እንተዘይኮነ ግና ብኣምላኽን ብህዝብን ተሓተት ምዃንኩም ከተስተውዕሉ ይግባእ ኣምላኽ ንኩሎም ኣብ ከቢድ ፀበባ ንዘለዉ ህዝብና መውፅኢ ይግበር ኣምላኽ ንኩሎም ህዝብናን ምድርናን ምጽንናዕ መንፈስ የፍስስ ሰላም ንህዝቢ ትግራይ ሰላም ንህዝቢ ኢትዮጵያ ሰላም ንህዝቢ ኤርትራ ሰላም ንብዘሎ ቀርኒ ኣፍሪቃ ብጣዕሚ ስለ ዝሃብኩም ንዕድል የመስግን ይቐኒየለይ
Thank you, Pastor. have one short clip, audio clip to share with you guys from our Muslim brothers. And give me 1 second here.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شمي مصطفى يبهال نبارنتي دنبر بمقصال أكسوم سيستر نز نجارات زي أداليكم زعدمكم دي بتعمية زي مسكنكم كم أون كم زين سمع زلنا أبتقرأي وريد زني هز أجمات بقل زر نجار أيقونن هز بتقرأي بتفعل عليه بوتات تفعل عليه قفعي يورد له كم أون أبكتم أقسم لعلي شوعات تميت السبات مويتم سبعنا ቤተሰብ ጽንዓት ይሃብኩም መንግስተ ሰማያት ወርሶም ተምዝሞቱ ከምኡውን ብምቕጥ ኣብ ተፈላለየ ቦታታት ልዕሊ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ዝወርድ ዘሎ ፀገማት እዞም ሰብ እዚኣቶም ኣብ ልዕሊ ህዝብና ዝወርድዎ ዘለዉ ግፍዒ እና ፍርዲ ክቐርቡ ከም ዘለዎም እና ብትሕትኛ ንሓትት እና ቤተሰብ ጽንዓት ይሃብኩም ህዝቢ ትግራይ ጽንዓት ይሃብካ ክብል ይደሊ አሰላሙ ዓለይኩም ወረሕመቱላሂ ወበረካቱ
Thank you. I'll continue now, Siga, if you could bring me up on the screen.
Your video is not on.
Let me get a few words in here before we start the video, the next video. Or do you have another video you want to?
No, you can go ahead, but we can't see you, Chuck. If you can turn on your video.
All right, I'll go ahead. I've been actively involved with the Denver Axum Sister Cities Committee for almost 10 years. I've renewed my connection with Ethiopia that goes back to 1968, when I began my 2 years of Peace Corps service as a secondary school teacher in Asela. It has been a source of great satisfaction to work with the many dedicated committee members and the broader Ethiopian diaspora community in the Denver area to carry out a number of projects to assist our sister city of Axum. In the past months, I've shared in the grief of my Ethiopian friends as we have learned of the tragic conflict in Axum and Tigray. As I said at a rally at the Colorado State Capitol on the 28th of January, I've had feelings of great sadness as we learned about the loss of life and severe hardships that are occurring in Axum and all over Tigray. We have been in touch with Denver Mayor Michael Hancock to make him aware of the impact of this conflict on our sister city of Axum and on Tigray, and of the tragic loss of life. Mayor Hancock has recorded the following video message to share his thoughts with us now. So start the video, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Denver Mayor Michael Hancock. On behalf of the City of Denver, I want to share my prayers and condolences for the loss of life that has occurred in the Denver sister city of Axum, as well as the loss of life and humanitarian suffering that is occurring throughout the Tigray region. I know that there are many Denver residents and others participating in this virtual meeting who have ties to Axum and Tigray, who are grieving the loss of loved ones. I understand how the limited communications and the uncertainty that creates makes the grief and sadness even more difficult to bear. While I'm not in a position to inject myself into the conflict between Axum and Tigray and the central Ethiopian government, I can add our voice to condemn the reported atrocities and violence against women, urge an end to the civilian deaths, and support immediate humanitarian assistance to relieve the suffering that is occurring. I want to extend the hopes and prayers of all of Denver that this vigil will help ease your sorrow and contribute to a future of peace for our sister city of Axum, for Tigray, and for all of Ethiopia. May God bless you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
All right, we'll continue with my good friend Sagai Hailu.
Gosh, Sagai, are you with us?
I think we were going to hear from Sagai next. Is that correct? Or do you want to go ahead, Goito?
I think that's Sagai.
Sagai?
It sounds like he might have jumped off. Let's go ahead and go to Janet.
Okay. Janet Lee.
Hi, my name is Janet Lee. Can you see me? Okay, now I can see myself. Great. I'm also a member of the Denver Sister City Committee and also a returned Peace Corps volunteer. Since my Peace Corps service in the Garage Zone from 1974 to 76, I have returned to Ethiopia many times for library and literacy projects, most recently to Mekelle and also in Axum. My choice of Axum for my Fulbright Award was largely because of Denver Sister Cities, but also at the invitation of Dr. Tsahai Tefera, the founder of the Ethiopian Community Development Council, and also the Africa Community Center here in Denver. He was planning on being on this panel, but unfortunately had another conflict. He asked me to help work on the Axumite Heritage Foundation Library. And so I divided my time between the University of Axum and the Foundation Library, making friends and becoming actually part of the community. For 10 months daily, I walked past the tourist hotels, up Denver Street, past the Visitor Center to the left and the Axumite Heritage Foundation Library to the right, past the St. Mary of Zion Church, to the square where the grand stele rose up to the sky. On occasion, time permitting, I walked to the Queen of Sheba baths, which is the centerpiece of the Epiphany or the Timkat celebration. I have primarily kept in contact with friends from both Mekelle and Axum on Facebook. On November 3rd, our election day, I was chatting with a friend in Axum about the US elections and other events. Little did either of us know that would be the last time we would be in communication. I had been through blackouts in Ethiopia before, but this one felt different. Like all of you, I scrolled the internet for news. I wrote my senators and representatives. I sent emails to the United Nations and the European Union. Both the Peace Corps group and the Denver Sister Cities group developed statements about asking for a peaceful resolution, and we distributed these statements widely. I forwarded to Ambassador Rayner at the US Embassy in Addis Ababa, and he responded to me. I discovered at that time that a journalist friend of mine in Mekelle was active on Facebook, and we connected almost daily. Apparently, he had a satellite phone and had access to the internet. He assured me that they were fine, that Axum was fine. But then on November 26th, the day that the forces invaded Mekelle, his line went dead. I have not heard from him since. I can only hope that he is in hiding in one of the caves outside of McKelly. On day 22, I heard from an expat faculty member from Axum University. Somehow she hitched a ride to Shiri and caught an Air Force cargo plane to Bishoftu, and then made her way to Addis, where she connected with other faculty from McKelly University who had fled earlier. She assured me that Axum was intact. It was almost a ghost town. Everybody was out in the countryside or in hiding, but she also noted that the people were starving. No one had heard from Adigrat University. And it wasn't until day 45, December 19th, that 8 expat faculty from Adigrat came into Addis. The university had been destroyed. In the meantime, I Facebook messaged everyone on my contact list, hoping that someday someone would respond. But I've been met with silence. From November 4th on, I messaged my friend. I wanted to make sure that there was a message from me if and when he gained access. In the end, I think I messaged him nearly daily, as if I were willing him to live. On day 56, and this was after the massacre at St. Mary's, I finally received a message from him. It stated simply, I am alive. I will call you when I reach Addis. I must have looked at that message a dozen times to make sure it was real. We have messaged since, but I've been cautious about asking for too many details, both because of security, but also because of the trauma. I could not imagine everything that he was going through, but I wanted to remain strong for him and for the rest of the community. Slowly, I am piecing together what happened. Early on, different forces passed through on their way to McKelly. Axum was quiet. The university had been hit, but there was little damage to the town. But then he later told me that he had nearly been killed in front of his family, and that was why he fled. Between 750 and 1,000 people were killed. Many were people he knew. Later, I asked if he had been by the church, and then he told me that a soldier put a gun to his forehead, and then for some inexplicable reason, just said, let him go. He is now in hiding in Addis. It is difficult not to go into a very dark place personally throughout this. And it is important not only to take action, but also to remain strong. One of my friends, whose husband is from McKelly, was able to connect finally with his mother and sister when the phones were reinstated in McKelly. After 56 days, another Peace Corps friend was able to speak to her husband once he was able to flee to McKelly from outside of Axum. These were the little rays of hope. On day 85, I received an audio message from another friend at 4:30 in the morning. It was difficult to understand her because she was sobbing and she kept crying. It is so difficult. It is so difficult. I asked her where she was, and she said, outside of Tigray. And then she said, do something, do something. We have since talked. When the shootings took place outside of St. Mary's, she was down near the Foundation Library. Her sister, visiting from Denver, was closer to the church. Her sister has since returned to Denver, but she is very much traumatized by this event. I believe it is day 94 of the communication blackout. 2 days ago, phone lines have opened up in parts of Axum, and electricity is partially restored. The stories that are coming out are beyond belief. Dr. Tsahaye, my colleague, and one of the anticipated panelists, was able to get in touch with several in the community after many, many attempts. His conversations with people, many are my colleagues, were told through sobs and uncontrolled emotions. People were killed who did no more than just being present. Some were killed in their houses. Some were killed walking on the street. Children were dragged from their homes and shot in front of their parents. Siblings who became emotional after the killing of their brothers and sisters were shot for crying or showing emotions. All of these atrocities were done by Eritrean soldiers. They would shoot someone who looked at them. They would shoot someone who looked away from them. The survivors were left with memories of the dead bodies that were lying for days on the streets. Bodies were finally laid to rest in mass graves with no religious services. To echo my friend, it is up to us to do something. Write letters, make phone calls, attend the rallies, sign petitions, take the opportunities to tell their stories to the media and post on Facebook. It is making a difference, and the world is watching. I believe Goetum or Ambassador Fesaya. Oh, okay. I see it's a guy.
I found out how to unmute my mic. Sorry. I want to thank Janet for the very personal and emotional message, and also thank Mayor Hancock for his kind message, recorded message also. Welcome, friends, all of you, and I'd like to recognize a few friends that had special connections with Tigray and Axum. Linda D and Sandy D, formerly from Denver Water System. Sandy was, he's a microbiologist who trained 11 technicians in water quality testing in Axum. Linda also had her own mission to Yatabon, another orphanage in southern Ethiopia. She helped that institution with some donations. And also Peter Van Arsdale. Dr. Peter Van Arsdale is very active in the Tigray area. He was a volunteer for TDA in the early days, together with late Ray Wheaton. And more recently, he and my wife and Latai and others, volunteers, kept going back and forth to Tigray to help an elementary school in a place called Maimisham. And I want to thank him for all the support that he has been giving us. And he's going to talk later on, probably. I just wanted to say that we're, as Chuck said, that we're here not just only to remember the 750 people massacred in Axum, but all over Tigray, really. I wanted to go through some brief history of how we established the sister city relationship between Denver and Axum. It was because of Mr. Daniel Johannes. Mr. Daniel Johannes had good connections with the mayor at that time, Mayor Wellington Webb. And then also he had a connection with the late city council member, Hiawatha Davis. So on January 20th, 1995, Mayor Webb signed the proclamation making Axum sister city to Denver. And he named that date, January 20th, Axum Day. And then the same year in November, Mayor Webb and Mr. Daniel Johannes led a delegation to Axum, to visit Axum. The delegation consisted of prominent political leaders in Colorado and the federal government, and also business people. And eyewitnesses described the reception that the Axum people gave them. It was just a very royal reception. People were lined up from the airport all the way to the reception area at the church complex. And at that time, the city, in honor of the delegates, named the main street leading to the Obelisk Park, Denver, Denver Street. And it has become a landmark since then. And in fact, there were a group of people who visited Axum from Denver or from Colorado. And when they came back, because they saw that sign, Denver Street, they joined us as active members in the sister city activities. There were questions when we decided to start a sister city relationship with Axum. People were asking why Axum, and frankly speaking, there is no city in Ethiopia that has the credentials of Axum's ancient history of Axumite Empire. That was one of the powerful empires in the world at that time. And then also in recent years, Axum became a good tourist attraction because of the stoneworks that the ancient Axumites left, the obelisk, the carvings in stone were very fascinating. Also, another attraction was that Axum is reputed, the Church of St. Mary of Zion is reputed to have to house the lost Ark of the Covenant. And Dr. Peter Van Arstel did some research on the Ark of the Covenant. And he gave several speeches at the Denver Natural History Museum. The hall was filled to overcapacity all the time. So that's another reason why we chose Axum, but also at the time we made Axum the sister city to Denver. It was only 4 years past the 17-year struggle that Tigray waged against the military government of Ethiopia and defeated the military and established a federated Ethiopia. And that federal Ethiopia is now under threat by the current government. So it was befitting really to make Axum sister city to the sister city mission, because President Eisenhower in 1956, when he established the movement, thought that the people-to-people contact or citizen diplomacy would contribute towards peace in the world. I wish it was true for Tigray and Ethiopia right now. So it was really something that it was very appropriate for Axum to be in that movement. Following Axum, 3 other sister cities were formed in Ethiopia. The Axum Sister City Committee was one of the most active sister cities because of the support we got from Mr. Daniel Johannes. Unfortunately, Mr. Daniel Johannes could not be here today, this afternoon. He had some other urgent matter. But anyway, it was because of his support that we were very active during the period that we connected with Axum. And also we had dedicated members like Don and Gloria Curtis. These were two, what do you call it, Peace Corps volunteers. Don was to India and Gloria Curtis was Peace Corps volunteer to Eritrea when Eritrea was part of Ethiopia. And Gail Stallings, she's still with us, and Flora Dupree, and current chairman Chuck Craman. As he said, he's also a sister city, he's a volunteer, Peace Corps volunteer. Then more recently, after the pandemic hit Axum, there were many destitute people that needed help. And we saw one video that was sent to us from Axum where they were distributing grains and food items to poor people. So we gathered some funds from here and sent it to our counterpart, which they had established their sister city committee in Axum. This was due to the new administration, the mayor and the new zonal administrator. They were very enthusiastic about participating actively with Sister City movement with us. And we were happy to help them. And this was because one member of ours, Yehudago Abai, went there. He had some business there, and he talked to them, and they talked to him, and he told us that they were very enthusiastic about participating actively in the sister city activities. And so we were happy to send them some funds. They had an account. The committee had an account, bank account. And then in the process, right now we don't know what happened after we sent them the funds because the war broke out. We hopefully the people are probably safe and still alive. We're all concerned about the fate of family members and friends all over Tigray, in Axum as well. Despite the blackout, the US and the international community now knows what's going on in Tigray. And the question is, how urgently can they intervene to stop the heinous crimes that Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki, the dictator of Eritrea, are committing. So it's very urgent, but you know how international agencies move. In addition to the obstruction that the Ethiopian government is putting against anybody interfering in what they're doing. Anyway, at the heart of the conflict are two opposing views. Just for some people who may not know, these views are one is the maintaining the federal system that that's existing actually under the constitution that's still in effect, where no ethnic group would dominate over other ethnic groups. Every ethnic group had equal share or right to participate in the central government. In addition to that, ethnic groups were guaranteed, according to the Constitution, were guaranteed self-determination up to and including secession. And so it was a very revolutionary and very new idea for, especially for Africa, where there are so many ethnic groups. And the reason why many African countries are not supporting, or rather supporting what Abiy Ahmed, the illegitimate prime minister, is doing. Why they are doing that is because they themselves have ethnic issues, and Ethiopia is kind of a threat to them if it was to succeed in being democratic enough to allow ethnic groups to self-determination up to and including secession. That would not go well for the ruling class. So they're not very anxious to support the democratic process of Tigray wanting to remain federated instead of one centralized government where one ethnic group really dominates over all others, which is what has been the case in Ethiopia throughout most of its history. So that's on one side. And the Tigray people really sacrificed the lion's share of sacrifices during the struggle, the 17-year struggle against the Marxist military government. The other view is what the government now is doing under Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed is not an elected prime minister. He was simply selected by the ruling party at that time, the Ethiopian EPRDF, we call it, Ethiopian People's Democratic Revolutionary Front. They selected him to form an interim government towards a national election that was due in May 2020, which he postponed to August of 2020. And then, of course, because of the pandemic, he said, we can't have elections, so he postponed elections again indefinitely. And now it's again postponed, or rather scheduled for June of 2021. But in the meantime, the Tigray regional administration said, no, this is unconstitutional. You're doing things unconstitutionally. You're not an elected prime minister. And they went ahead and said, we're going to follow the constitution and conduct a regional election just for the regional administration, because they have the self-determination right to do that. And when they did that, Abiy Ahmed threatened that there will be war and stuff like that. And they went ahead and did the election in spite of the pandemic. And they were very careful to protect people from coronavirus. And that was part of the reason why finally Abiy Ahmed decided to declare war against Tigray. The whole thing had actually been in the process with in collaboration with the Eritrean dictator Isaias Afwerki. Ever since Abiy Ahmed received the Nobel Peace Prize from the Norwegian Committee, unfortunately, because that peace was not peace between the two peoples, Eritrean people and Ethiopian people. It was never a peace that was meant to be really true peace between the two countries. It was simply to be able to bring in or to bring together the two dictators, Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki. And they had private meetings back and forth, traveling from their capitals. And all this time, in hindsight, was really spent plotting for this war, genocidal war against Tigray. Why is Isaias wanting to fight the Tigrayan people? Because back in 1998 to 2000, he started a war against Ethiopia, and with the leadership of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, they defeated his fortifications. They overran his fortifications, and they were advancing on his capital city of Asmara. And previously, the United States wanted to mediate with Isaias and not to wage war against Ethiopia, but he refused, completely refused. But when the army of Ethiopia started advancing against his capital, then he said, "Oh, please, I want mediation." So that was really this guy has a big ego, and his ego was deflated at that time, and he held this grudge, and this is a vendetta, really. For him, it's a vendetta against the TPLF, or Tigray People's Liberation Front. And for Abiy Ahmed, it's really power was, handed to him so peacefully that he wants to keep it. That's it. He wants to be a dictator. So the strangest thing in Ethiopian history is that a leader has given its sovereignty to a foreign country. This has never been done in the thousands of years that Ethiopia has been independent. So Abiy Ahmed has allowed the arch-enemy Eritrean leader Isaias Afwerki to dictate what should be done. And all these war plots are really the major architect, the chief architect is Abiy Ahmed himself, rather Isaias Afwerki. So this is major, really high treason, and according to the Ethiopian Penal Code, this is punishable by death. And unfortunately, we may not see that. Right now, the TPLF is in the bushes, fighting back to the guerrilla warfare. They're fighting three powers. One is the Eritrean army, of course, the Ethiopian army and the Amhara militia and special forces. And then there is also participation by the Somalia government. And most of all, the United Arab Emirates is using its drones to attack leaders of the Tigray People's Liberation Front and installations, bombing cities, civilian centers. And this is simply, this has been done in Yemen, as you all know. Yemen is one of the most tragic humanitarian cases in the world. And the United Arab Emirates base is in Eritrea, in Asab. And so they've been using the drones from this base to bomb the Iranian supported faction in Yemen. And now they're using it against Ethiopia, against Tigray rather. So this is simply a lopsided warfare against this small army of Tigray. All these powers are allied together. So really the hope for the Tigray people is in the international community, mainly the United States, together with its allies, the United Nations Security Council, to urgently intervene in this war, to stop the war. There are really a number of steps that have been suggested to the United States government, including the president and the vice president. And the first of all is forcing the Eritrean troops to withdraw from Tigray immediately. And this has been already declared by the United States for the Eritrean troops to move out of Tigray, and forcing Abiy Ahmed to pull back his army and the Amhara militia out of Tigray. And third, forcing Abiy Ahmed to lift the blackout of all communications, restore electricity, internet, water supply, to open roads, highways, airways for normal traffic to flow. And then dispatching a peacekeeping force to be stationed in Tigray to assure humanitarian aid reaches all of Tigray, the people of Tigray, to allow refugees to return to their homes as well. And lastly, hold Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki accountable for their crimes against humanity and war crimes at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. As they say, this too shall pass, and it will. I know there will be many Tigrayans, particularly young generation, who will dedicate their talents and resources to rebuild Tigray like never before. And I hope that day comes sooner than later. Thank you.
I believe Goitam Tesveldet is the next speaker on our program. Please.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Denver Sister City, for hosting this, and thank you all guests. My name is Goitam Tesveldet. I am here as the chairman of the local Tigray Ethiopian community. So I'm just going to express slightly what we're feeling here in the community. The tragedy and the pain that brings us here today are extraordinary. The lives that were taken from us all over Tigray were unique. The memories that loved ones carry are unique, and they will carry them and endure long after the invasion is over. Once more, we came together to mourn the lives of beauty and comfort the wonderful families who cherished them. Once more, our hearts are broken. Once more, we ask why. Once more, we seek strength and wisdom through God's grace. There was a report a few days ago that states, in addition to the 750 people massacred at St. Mary Cathedral in Axum, this invasion has already claimed 52,000 innocent Tegaru lives. But to us, the young men and women dying fighting to preserve our God-given rights to life are also innocent. They are not statistics. They are the lives that have been taken from us. They are dads and moms, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters to us. Here in Colorado, hundreds in our community have lost a neighbor, and thousands here have also lost families, loved ones, and close friends. As has been mentioned, all wounds are being opened again. Only a few years back, a brutal war with the Derg regime has claimed 60,000 Tegaru lives. As my mom said, I can't believe this is happening to us again. Tagaru, or the Tigrayans, have endured a shuddering tragedy after tragedy. It ought to be shock to us all as community and as people. It ought to lead to some sort of transformation. That's what happens in other societies when they experience similar atrocities. And yet, there in our Tigray, after the round of clock protest coverage on social media and cable news, after the heartbreaking interviews with families, after all the speeches and all the commentaries, nothing happened to stop the genocide. What troubles us so deep as we gather here today is how such massacres like in St. Mary Cathedral and all over Tigray are allowed to continue after 90 plus hellish days and nights. As ancient Greek poet Archie says, even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop up on the herd, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the grace of God. But this time, the pain is so deep, it is felt in every Tigrayan flesh, bone, and hearts. We can't accept this. As Tagaru, bound in grief and love, we must insist here today that we cannot go to our normal daily lives when innocent men and women are massacred at churches, mosques, and marketplaces. There is nothing normal about our children being gang raped or gunned down in their homes in front of their loved ones. Enough is enough. But sometimes it takes unexpected voice to break through, to help us, remind us that we know to be true. By now, though it should be clear that the help we need may not come from the UN or any other third party, even when the mass killings and gruesome atrocities are well documented and well known, change will come the only way it ever has came, and that is from the Tigrayan people. So the question now is not whether as Tagaru or Tigrayans, we care in moments of tragedy. Clearly we care. Our hearts are broken again. And we are so deep, we care so deeply about our families. But the question is, do we care enough? Do we care enough to keep standing up for the country that we know is possible, even if it is hard, and even if it is politically uncomfortable? Do we care enough to sustain the passion and the pressure to keep our families back home safe? Do we care enough to do everything we can to spare our families the pain that is felt here today? Our tears and our words are not enough. If we really want to honor those massacred men and women all over Tigray, if we really want to see our Tigray where our children and grandchildren can go to work, go to school, and walk our streets free without the suffering our grandparents, our parents, and eventually us are enduring, then we are going to have to change. We are going to have to change. But as these difficult days have unfolded, our families back home have also inspired us with stories of love and strength. In the face of indescribable terror, in the face of unconscionable evil, our parents back home, you have looked out for each other, and you have cared for one another, and you have loved one another. You remind us what matters. This is how Tagaru will be remembered. And that's what we should drive us forward in everything we do for as long as God sees fit to keep us on this earth. May God hold close the souls taken from us and grant them eternal peace. May He comfort and watch over our community here and our people in Tigray and all human beings all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Goto, for those very heartfelt words.
We're gonna go to Susie next, Chuck.
Okay.
Susie.
Hello, everybody. Life has not been the same since November 4th. The Ethiopia I thought I knew was no more. We heard countless stories of the Eritrean and Ethiopian military teaming up and committing horrid crimes. One being raping young women and mothers, threatening their fathers and brothers to have sex with their daughters or sisters or else they would be killed. We heard from a young Tagada woman who was a coffee seller, who was split up from her family on her journey fleeing the war. This woman is now a refugee in the Hamdet camp in Sudan, The 25-year-old was given two choices from this Ethiopian soldier. Either he raped her or he would kill her. She explained to the doctor at the refugee camp that he held a gun to her and raped her. Continuing to make matters even worse, she was giving medication to end pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, then sent to a psychotherapist. Countless stories of pregnant women being raped, then getting their stomachs slaughtered, soldiers repeating that they don't want any children of Tigray being born. These women are so strong to go through so much and still be able to tell their stories. And to think how many stories out there that we may never hear about. Aid agencies and hospitals have numbers and thousands of women being raped. Weaponized sexual and gender-based violence aims to physically and psychologically torture survivors. As if going through war isn't enough, it can cause physical and psychological trauma, most common psychological trauma. Studies show that a high percentage of women who have psychological trauma are victims of sexual and gender-based violence. This causes depression, PTSD, somatic symptoms, social dysfunction, insomnia, a loss of identity, and much more. My heart aches for my people, for the innocent children who will live on remembering these atrocities and how it will impact them psychologically for the rest of their lives, for the mothers, the fathers, for my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Let's go to Salem, please.
Say again, please.
Salem told she is right here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for organizing this today. I'd like to share a bit of our statement. Today is January 11th, 2021. Today at 11:44 a.m., my cousin called me to tell me that my uncle is dead. His name was Makonnen. 30 years ago, he was a Candlelight, a fighter defending our people's rights. He died honoring that same right. He was targeted for his ethnicity and his defense of his people. He was a fighter. He was a farmer. He tended to that land. Like my father, he was a man of great integrity, immense resolve. Above all, he was deeply kind. My mother did not hear this news from our family, but from her sister-in-law's brother in Vigil. With the communication block, she is unable to get a hold of her siblings or mother in Axum to confirm the news. She has to rely on word-of-mouth conversations. Apparently, someone approached her 2 weeks ago and told her the news, a man visiting Denver. She has no way of reaching my uncle's wife to exclaim her grief. She is simply here, burdened by the weight of grief and the responsibility of letting my father know that his brother, his warrior of a brother, was executed. My father has no way of reaching his eldest brother to mourn their sibling's death. They are their parents' remaining children. In the same conversation, my cousin told me that another family member is dead. He died the same week as my uncle 80 days ago. Someone traveled a treacherous 133 miles from Axum to Mekelle in the middle of this war to call my aunt and uncle and let them know about their nephew. Johannes was outside of my uncle's hotel, which he managed in their absence. He and his friends stuck together that night because they were afraid. Soldiers approached the young men and lined them up against the courtyard wall. They were executed in cold blood outside of his own home. A woman was witness to every shot. Somehow they spared her, if only to tell of this horror. Johannes was his mother's only son. Johannes was his mother's only son. There is no other way to say this. They are executing our family members. Today is February 6th. Today marks 95 days of war. 95 days people have not had the simple relief of hearing a loved one pick up the phone. In 95 days, they have endured airstrikes, home raids, being shot at, fleeing hundreds of miles on foot. Their bodies ragged at the end of the journey, their hearts broken by the violence they escaped, the images of which replay in their mind's eye. Humanitarian aid is being blocked, so people are starving, again, by design. 2.5 million people are displaced. 4.5 million people are starving and without urgent humanitarian aid. That is nearly the entire population of Tigray, which is 6 million people. We are 0.07% of the world's population, but we will not be forgotten and we will not be ignored. Our urgent demands remain the same. Internet and communication lines be reinstated permanently across all of Tigray. That the federal government refrain from all military aggression, including removing foreign powers, such as Eritrean troops. And that comprehensive negotiations and discourse begin immediately. What is more important than defending human life? What is more important than preserving peace? What is more important than preserving someone's right to live their life without fear, without violence, without avoidable loss, on their own terms, with love? There is no answer. Nothing is more important. For those of you who are not Tagado, we need you in this fight. People might hear you differently than how they hear us. So find a way to take action alongside us, and remember, this is about the defense of human life. I urge you all to continue to fight, continue to tweet, continue to call, email, and tag your representatives. Continue to show up at protests and yell for all those who have yet to hear what is happening in our country. Every single thing we do has an important consequence. Every bit matters. Every prayer and demand will be heard. This war has nearly reached 100 days, and we will not let it continue for a day more. Tigray will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're all touched.
Mohammed, it will be next. Mohammed, are you ready?
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mohammed Warid. People call me by middle name as Ethiopian, call us by our first father name. Mohammed Bullo. I'm the president of Oromo community of Colorado. And I'm just heartbroken about what happened in Tigray. The atrocities committed against the Tigrayan people. And this war is the extension of the war happened in Oromo since Abiy Ahmed took the power in 2018. A lot of Oromos has been killed, jailed, or and executed without any due process. And that war went to the north, to Tigrayan people. We feel sorry for the loss of life and the Oromo communities, as we have been standing with the Tigrayan community. Again, we feel sorry, and we pass our condolences to you. This also, we call into international communities to intervene to stop these atrocities committed in Tigrayans and all over Ethiopia right now. So the current government is, we see that they to the right direction. The Biden administration ordered to the Eritrean troops to leave the Tigrayans, and also in warning the Ethiopian government to open up for Tigrayan people to get necessary humanitarian supplies. Again, get strong. We still feel your pain because we have been in pain for many years, and this will be passed. And in Ethiopia, the true democracy, the true federalism, the federalism that have been on place since 1991 will prevail in the long run. This government is the way of destroying all the norm of federalism. People enjoy their own freedom, self-rule. One of the reasons, as the speaker before me said, why when again is the why Tigrayans elect their own leaders. Like everywhere else, if there is a democracy, every region has to rule by their own leaders, by the people they choose. This government is against that. That's why the wage the war against the Tigrayan people, and will prevail, get strong. If we united, this government will collapse soon, as we hear from all our medias. The world is against this tyrant, and the Tigrayans, as well as the rest of Ethiopian people, as well as the Oromos, will get their own freedom and get strong. And also, thank you for giving this time, this opportunity to pass my condolence to you. And I appreciate working together as usual. Please reach to us, and we also start doing some activities so that to put forward the atrocities those Abiy Ahmed conducted in ourselves and all over Ethiopia right now. And get strong, working hard, and don't stop advocating for your people, to international communities, to local officials, and to anybody else, so that we're gonna hear our voices. Thank you. God bless you. You have a good day. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mohammed. Dr. Waldo, yes, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Denver Axum Denver City's committee for coordinating this vigil. It means a lot to us to remember all those lives lost during this war of invasion. I'd like to start by saying that the people of Tigray have always been dragged to war, not because of their choosing, but because of aggression. And this dates back to the time of the colonial era. And as we all know, the Italians were defeated at the Battle of Adwa, and that's what is globally known. But it's important to remember that more than a dozen similar wars were fought before the Battle of Adwa. And if Tigrayans are to take their share of those wars, they would have the lion's share. The Ethiopian military, the Tigrayan military general, Ras Alula Abanega, fought with the Egyptians, with the Mahdists, and with the Italians. And in all those wars, lots of Tigrayan lives were lost. And then when we go to the domestic or the civil wars that we had, we would remember we should remember the aftermath of the war, the aftermath of the Battle of Adwa. It was estimated that about 100,000 troops were involved on the Ethiopian side, and then after the war ended, all these troops literally ravaged every Tigrayan village, because it's not the provision of logistics is not the way things are done now. So every farmer, their savings were looted, their animals were killed and taken away. And then what makes it similar to what is happening now is that the entire people of Tigray are under threat for their lives. It is estimated that very conservative estimate for that matter, it's estimated that about 62,000 innocent civilians have already been killed. And in addition to the lives that are lost, the property of the Tigrayans has been looted for the last almost 3 months now, more than 3 months. And infrastructure has been destroyed. And this war of aggression has, to put it the right way, a genocide has been committed against the people of Tigray. And then the Abiy Ahmed administration has been engaged in misinformation and deception. He told the international community that this is going to be a law enforcement operation, while the entire federal army and the entire army of the Eritrean government have been involved in destroying the people of Tigray. And then it's heartbreaking to see the international community not responding with calls of destruction have been said. It is it's very sad that the international community is gonna wake up with the news of complete destruction of our people. In fact, they would be caught with misbelief when access is given to international observers. But we can now see that the attempts are being made to see what's going on. The Biden administration seems to recognize the atrocities that are being committed against our people. But even if the Eritrean government is asked to withdraw its troops, unless serious measures are taken, I don't think that there would be any quick pull-out of the Eritrean army from Tigray. And then by the day, lots of lives are being lost. And it's what we are observing now is very scary. To share a story personally, my wife comes from the city of Axum, and you know that there was communication blackout throughout Tigray, and Axum, it was one of the epicenters of the war, but we were not able to hear any news from the family. It was only yesterday that she managed to talk to her brothers and sisters. And when I talk about my side of the story, I come from a town called Samra. It is about 60 kilometers to the southwest of Maqala. And my sister, my older sister lives there, and she and her entire family, we don't have any news of what might have happened to them. We know that some of her children managed to come to Maqala, and we had some news about how they were from them. But now, even for them, news from Samra is unimaginable. So nobody knows what is going on with my sister and her family. And then we talk only about Tigrayans in Tigray, but we also need to think about Tigrayans in the rest of Ethiopia. My younger sister was a member of TPLF, the rebel army, and it has been since the start of the war. She was asked to stop coming to her workplace. She was asked to disarm, and even if she was doing civilian life, civilian work in the army, she was considered as a threat. So she's asked to report every once in a while, and then nobody knows what will happen to them. A lot of members of the former army, nobody talks about them, but they are in detention camps throughout the country. And then they have been undergoing all sorts of torture and atrocities, and we have not been able to speak on their behalf too. So we know that the war in Tigray should end, but it is also important for us to call upon the Abiy Ahmed administration that all Tagaru, Tigrayans throughout Ethiopia should also be allowed to live their lives. If the military officers are asked to disarm, what else is gonna be requested from them? So we are happy that you have organized this vigil in order for us to remember the lives of those who lost their lives in this war of aggression. But at the same time, it's also important for us to continue to request the the Biden administration to be not merely ask the Eritrean government to leave and the Abiy Ahmed administration to stop the war of aggression, but concrete measures would be needed. First of all, for humanitarian access to the people who are starving now. And I would end by saying that eternal glory to our martyrs, and may God repose the souls of those who lost their lives in this war of invasion, and may the Lord strengthen their loved ones and the people of Tigray in general. And at last, I would say that Tigray will surely prevail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As we're coming to the end of this vigil, I want to thank all the dedicated people who have helped put together this program. Sigai Hailu, Sigurd Fesaha, Goitum Tesvelit, Gail Stallings, Janet Lee, our sister cities friends Rachel Clements, and the mayor's staff Derek Okobo. Thank you to all the speakers and presenters, including those who sent us recordings. Express our thanks for your time, for the excellent knowledge that you shared with us, and for the heartfelt statements that you've made. And to all of those who are part of our vigil, we hope that joining together is a way to honor those who have died. And we hope we bring some comfort and help ease your sorrow and grief, and especially ease the grief of those who have lost family and friends and loved ones in this terrible conflict. Denver Axum Sister Cities is raising funds for relief efforts in Axum. These funds will be used to support relief efforts once we're able to identify an appropriate entity that has access to the area, and we have a way to securely transmit the funds. In the meantime, please join me in making a donation now to support this work. There's a link to Denver Sister Cities. The homepage is in the chat box. You can click on donate, and as you complete the online form, indicate that your donation is for Axum relief. There's information and updates on news from the situation in Tigray and Axum on Twitter, on several Facebook pages, including the Denver Axum Sister Cities Facebook page and the Facebook page of the Ethiopian and Eritrean Return Peace Corps volunteers. And I believe you had information on a Tigray information website as well. We encourage all of you to continue making contact with your senators, members of Congress, other political leaders. Echo the demands that have been made here today to condemn the atrocities, to stop the violence, to initiate peaceful discussions, and insist on provision for immediate humanitarian relief. Again, thank you for joining us in this vigil, and may the memories of those who have died in this conflict always be a blessing to you and your families.
Chuck, if you have a few minutes, can you give a chance to some of our guests to speak, like Peter Van Arsdale?
Before we conclude, do we have one more, Dr. Van Arsdale?
Oh, thank you, Chuck.
A few additional remarks.
Well, thanks. I'm thinking of the wonderful people when I've been privileged to meet them, when I've been in Tigray on 4 different occasions. And I wanted all of our friends here to know that the Coalition Against Global Genocide is working with you. I'm a member of that. And that Rotary International, with its many clubs, is also working with you. So thank you very much. And you can count on our ongoing support.
Thank you. I think I will just close with, I know many of you have mentioned your family members, but for Sister Cities, we had 5 people who stepped forward last year at the behest of Mayor Kasai and at the urging of our friend Yedego Abai. And I want to close by mentioning their names. The committee, I don't know where they are. I don't know their fate in the midst of this conflict, but I want to express a thank you for their efforts. They stepped up in the COVID relief efforts and to make every effort to strengthen the ties between Denver and Axum. So, Alamayo Tasahai Geber Mariam, Mulugeta Getahun Tafera, Sahai Asgadon Berhani, Adakaki Berhanu Kiros, and Zalela Hagos Berhani. Wherever you are, you're in our hearts. Thank you, and may God bless everyone.
عدنا سوحة سوحي عيتن بعياقي وإذا عدنا ربا ربا عد مع الصبا إذا عدنا نباخانو عدتم يقانو صحيبة بريقة وقحتها مريت وقدد سفنة وركا وشورنا بخانانا بساوح بس عسلة فلافل زور ولملم محعد عمالو عمر فاتحي وقاسا وشنزي ما زنزي ملو أوالد الديت كلن عدار وحيزن كوردا أبع البتل معدن مسمح لعدن كبدا من إسيبتر تمحيزهم كارسا قليع من تشكو يترف لحبتين عخين عيد كويس كون كوناني أبين خلقو وإذا عدنا روبا روبا عد معرفة وإذا عدنا روبا روبا عد معرفة تقاق قلب ورقعان والد تحت البسان عد بلسمح نتحلو معرج وغل الكسر فلافل زور ولملم سجن الشوك لسان معذات رانجان عدام ستسم تترأسن عبتاي بذل الموت بسرعة في حزيلو مقالح كرار بتا خبر وجرأ خديلو ملسحات سبين أرمتوت كلوس قمس عمخو يترف دحاوين عخانا عيب ويسمن كونني هبين خلقو وإذا عدنا روبا روبا عد معرفة